Today we'll be talking about PN junction, that is nothing but also referred as a diode. So before starting towards what's a PN junction, we'll be moving towards some basics of semiconductor physics. Then we're moving towards PN junction, and that is nothing but a diode. So basically, first we'll study what's a conductor, what's an insulator. So, conductor is a material that allows the flow of electricity or current, such as copper, aluminium, etc. When you come to insulator, insulator opposes the flow of electricity or current, materials such as wood, rubber, etc. So basically there are two types of materials that have been present. One is conductor, other one is insulator. So when you combine a conductor and insulator, that is nothing but partial conductor, partial insulator, we come across semiconductor. So we can define a semiconductor as a combination of partial conductor and partial insulator. Examples of semiconductors are germanium, silicon, etc. Now we'll going further into what's semiconductor. Semiconductor is classified into two types. One is intrinsic semiconductor, other one is extrinsic semiconductor. Now, what is intrinsic? What is extrinsic? The pure form of semiconductor is nothing but referred as intrinsic. When the intrinsic semiconductor is being doping, it becomes extrinsic semiconductor. Doping means adding impurities. So, what's the reason of adding impurities? The first reason is intrinsic semiconductor, since being the pure form, it works, but it does not have that much amount of concentration that it can be used in some kind of an application. So doping is being required. So doping is nothing but adding of impurities to an intrinsic semiconductor, which makes it an extrinsic semiconductor. Now, extrinsic semiconductor is of further two types. One is positive type semiconductor, also called as p-type. Other one is negative n-type semiconductor. Now, what's a positive semiconductor? What's a negative semiconductor? So, a positive type semiconductor means, obviously this is obtained after doping. So in p-type, what doping is done, that is to be understood over here. So in positive t-type semiconductor, so basically we can take a semiconductor examples for both the cases as germanium or say silicon. So when you go to positive type semiconductor, trivalent impurities are being doped. Trivalent impurities such as boron is being doped to a p-type semiconductor, is being doped to a pure semiconductor such as germanium, silicon, which forms a positive type semiconductor. Similarly, when a semiconductor such as germanium or silicon is doped with pentavalent impurities, pentavalent impurities such as antimony, it has been referred as N-type semiconductor. So this was a certain basic of semiconductor. From this topic, now we can come to our PN junction. How we can come to PN junction means, I will elaborate to you. If I take a p-type semiconductor and if I take a n-type semiconductor and join together, I'll be saying it as a PN junction. This one. So I'm considering one p-type semiconductor, I'm taking one n-type semiconductor, I'm joining the two, and the junction separating the two is called as a PN junction. This PN junction is also called as a diode. Positive, positive, negative, negative, positive, negative. So now coming to the main topic, we have arrived to PN junction, or nothing but as diode. Now we'll study the operation of diode. Now, what's a PN junction? What's a diode? So, as you already know, combination of P and N type is nothing but also referred as a diode, and the junction separating the two is nothing but a PN junction. So, what does a diode do basically? Diode allows the flow of current only in one direction. Now we'll be studying the operation of the diode. This is my diode. When the diode operates, a diode operates in two modes. One is forward bias, other one is reverse bias. As you already know, bias means applying voltage. Now what is forward bias means? When positive of the diode is connected to positive of the battery and negative of the diode is connected to negative of the battery, we say it as forward bias. I can also draw an equivalent diagram of it with respect to PN junction, because PN junction or diode both are the same. Now we'll be studying the operation. And before going into the operation of it, I'd like to make you a note on this point what I'm going to say. Whenever you go for a P-type material and whenever you go for an N-type material, there are two types of charge carriers majorly involved. That is nothing but, one is called as majority carrier, other one is called as minority carriers. When you come to P-type, majority carriers are holes and minority carriers are electrons. Simultaneously, when you come to N-type, it also has majority and minority. Here, majority will be electrons, minority will be holes. This concept is very much important in understanding the operation of a diode. So now we'll come back to our topic of continuation of the operation of a PN junction diode, where we were in forward bias. Now, so as you know, positive connected to positive, negative connected to negative is nothing but referred as positive bias. Sorry, forward bias. Now coming to this part, now we'll study the operation. When a voltage is applied, since you know positive majority carriers in P types is nothing but holes, in N type is electrons. Here, when a diode is subjected to forward bias, majority carriers will move towards, that is nothing but holes of P will move towards N, electrons of N will move towards P when subjected to a voltage V. So, when these electrons and hole move, they make an electron and hole pair combination and current starts to flow in the circuit and the diode starts to work. And this process is simultaneously working and the current in the circuit is flowing. But since the P type and N type are doped to a certain level, the majority carriers will also be limited to a certain extent. So what happens is, the P type, the N type, holes of P will start to be accumulated over here and electrons of N type will be starting to accumulate over here. That is nothing but N will not accept any holes from P and N will not accept any holes from P and P will not accept any electrons from N. So what happens? These get accumulated over here and these make a barrier. A barrier is created. This barrier is called as depletion layer. Depletion layer. So because of this barrier, the propagation of current and the electron hole pair combination decreases and the flow of current also simultaneously gets decreased and the performance of the diode is little bit decreased. And since the voltage is continuous, the current is also continuous. And after a time, this depletion layer gets on increasing and the layer gets vanished off after a certain time and then again comes back to P-N junction. And the diode works in the normal way, that is first in this way and it continues the cycle in this way and then again it comes to again this position. So in this state of forward bias, the diode is always in on state. Now, one more thing. When you plot a VI characteristic graph, voltage and current, so since the current is always on and the voltage is always present over here, the graph is always in this increasing manner for both the diodes, germanium as well as silicon. Now we will see the second parameter, reverse bias. When positive of the diode is connected to the negative of the battery and positive of the battery is connected to negative of the diode, it is called as the reverse bias. In this condition, the majority carriers will not work, but minority carriers will work. That is nothing but since it is reverse bias, majority carriers will not be working, only minority carriers will be working. So when you come to the minority carriers of P types, this is electrons and N type is holes. Minority means less in quantity. So electrons from P type will move towards N type and holes from N type will move towards P type and again electron hole pair combination will start. And a current will be generated. Since these are minority carriers and the electron hole pair is due to the minority carriers, the current will also be smaller. This current is referred as reverse saturation current. Reverse saturation current represented by I. Now, since the voltage is there, since the reverse saturation current is present, this current is very small because it is due to minority carriers, is developed and there is a flow of current, but this current cannot be used in any application, so this current is not of any applicative use. Now, since the voltage is continuous, the current is also flowing. Since the current is also flowing, electrons and hole pair combination also simultaneously occurs, and after a certain time, here also a depletion layer will be created. P minority carriers, electrons, holes, electrons, holes, will be accumulated, and the depletion layer here also increases. But here the depletion layer does not get vanished off, but rather goes on increasing. Goes on increasing, and after a certain time, here the accumulation of the electrons will be more, and here the accumulation of the holes will be more, and this depletion layer will be, and that is all the charges over here, electrons and holes, will be getting accumulated and will make an avalanche. That is nothing but a mountain type, which is referred as avalanche, and of this avalanche will be increasing till a certain voltage. Will be increasing till a certain voltage, which is nothing but called as breakdown voltage. Till the breakdown voltage, it will be increasing, and at the breakdown voltage, this avalanche will get break, and this breakdown is referred as avalanche breakdown. So the voltage at which the avalanche is occurring, or the peak of the avalanche is being present, that particular voltage at which the avalanche breakdown is occurring is called as breakdown voltage, represented by VB, also sometimes VBV. So after this state, the diode does not work and it is of no working condition. So at this state, the diode is off. So we can conclude that in forward bias, the diode is in on state, and in reverse bias, the diode is in off state. So I can say that the diode is working as a switch, that is on and off. In the future classes, we'll be saying you about making rectifiers, full wave, half wave, and filters using diodes. Thank you.